It's a crowded house in Baltimore for Brandon Hyde, especially in the infield. Who's in and who's out now that Emmanuel Rivera has also been invited to Major League Camp? Hello, everybody. I'm Jon Leiberman. This is Orioles Digest. This is a special day. Pitchers and catchers have their first workout today. Other players will have their first workout on Monday. We have a lot to cover, a very crowded infield. I want to know from you, do you want to go with youth as the backups, or do you want to go with veterans as the backups? And a new problem for the starting rotation that not many people are talking about, but we are going to talk about it here today, and I want to get your take on that as well. Thank you so much for joining us on Orioles Digest. Again, I'm Jon Leiberman. Please like, subscribe, do all the things. We're so glad that you're here, and this is kicking it off, right? It's the road to hopefully the World Series. Where's my World Series button that everybody loves to see? It's the road to the World Series, hopefully. Let's get to all of the big news, including the crowded infield and another problem with the starting rotation. We will start with the crowded infield and Emmanuel Rivera. Now, the Orioles outrighted Rivera to AAA after he cleared waivers. He could have rejected the O's offer and became a free agent, but he is staying with the Orioles, and he's going to be invited to Major League Camp. Now, that makes a very crowded infield picture that much more crowded. So obviously, you have the staples. You know, you have Jackson, you have Gunnar, you have Ryan O'Hearn, you have Westberg, you have Mountcastle. Those are your guys that you're going to battle with. Those are the guys that are going to be in the infield, going to be the starters. But when you take a look at who's left, it really is divided into veterans and youngsters. And I want to know who you want to see in there. First thing I want to do, though, however, is to take a look at not Charlie Morton, but Emmanuel Rivera's stats. He was hot for the Birds last year. 5 homers and 29 runs batted in after the acquisition. Walked a decent amount of time. Yes, he strikes out, but he was very solid for what we thought we were getting with Rivera. He was very, very, very solid. So, speaking of solid, let us go back to the infield. So, Rivera is obviously one person. We talked about Gunnar, Jackson, all the guys. Let's shift to potential backups. And to me, it falls into 2 categories. It falls into the Coby Mayo category, right? The young guys. Do you want the couple backup roles that we will have to be filled with young guys like Coby Mayo or older guys like Rivera, like Ramon Urias, like Jorge Mateo? These are guys that have been there, done that, proven themselves, and can really be an asset. Of course, if Mateo is healthy, can really be an asset off the bench. So you have the Coby Mayo camp. Let's start there. And I want to go to, some of the younger guys who could actually gain backup spots. So you have Luis Vasquez, tons of potential here. He'll be in camp, a late winter, if you will, pickup, lots of speed, lots of upside. You have a guy like Terrin Vavra, who's kind of in the middle, I would say, of these two. You have a guy like Livan Soto, who is also, a bit more experienced. And then back on the young side, you have Vimael Machin, who will be in camp and is a definite possibility as well. So I go back to this question for you. Please tell me in the comments. Backups in the very crowded infield, obviously, as I said, Jackson, Gunnar, Ryan, Jordan, these are your guys. Do you want to see the likes of Urias and Mateo on the roster, or do you want to see the likes of, say, a Kobe Mayo and a Luis Vasquez to start the season? Again, some of these, just keep in the back of your mind, could also be trade chips for the Orioles as they go after potentially an ace. Particularly if Grayson were to struggle, if Zach were to struggle, I think we'll go after an ace at the trade deadline. And for me, if I'm building this roster, I want to begin the season at least with, if Jorge Mateo is healthy, with the likes of Mateo and Urias as the backups. Been there, done that. There will be a time for Kobe Mayo. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate about this. There will be a time for Kobe Mayo. I'd rather start the season with some veterans, less pressure on them, whereas a guy like Mayo is going to have a ton of pressure. Speaking of pressure, there's a story that hardly anybody is talking about, and I want to bring it to your attention because I think it's going to be super, super important. And that is, in our starting rotation, where are all the lefties? Where are all the lefties? The 5 starters that we have slated in right now are all right-handed pitchers, led, of course, by Grayson Rodriguez and Zach Eflin. We have a wealth of right-handed pitchers. If you look at the 5 projected starters, okay, no lefties. You have to go to the bullpen to find the lefties, which would be, the likes of Keegan Aiken and Juan Soto. It's a crowded bullpen out there, so of course they have to decide who's in and who's out as well. And I said Juan Soto. Of course, I misspoke there. Wishful thinking, right? The lefties we have in the bullpen: Keegan Aiken, Gregory Soto, Cianel Perez. We have those lefties in the bullpen, but really you have to go down the depth chart for starters to find any lefties. You have to go to Trevor Rogers. You have to go to Cade Povich, those guys. So the question I want to leave you with, and I want to hear your thoughts here, are you okay with the Birds going to battle with 5 righties in the starting rotation, or do you want to either try to make room for a Trevor Rogers or a Cade Povich? The only person I could see even potentially dropping out of the rotation early on would be Dean Kramer, but I'm a big Dean Kramer fan. I think that rotation's set. I think with Sagano and with Morton, obviously Zach and Grayson up top and Dean Kramer's your 5th. I think that's your rotation to start the year. So I think you will see 5 righties. But I do think it is a definite issue that the Orioles have to think about and potentially address, the lack of a left-handed starting pitcher outside of Trevor Rogers and Cade Povich. Please comment, like, subscribe. Today is day 1. Pitchers and catchers reporting. It's an exciting time in Birdland. We'll talk to you soon.